goes, he scored a penalty, back to his best.
Back to the what did you a gambling thing? Like a gambling issue?
Oh, let's not talk about that.
He's
He
not
might have.
gambling.
Alan Rickman had a gambling issue.
No.
Kevin Kyle.
Aye, Alan Kyle had a gambling issue.
Alan Rickman's not dead. He actually drives for Uber
Aye. He's
in Cumbernauld.
You'll never hear this. He takes like extra time to just catch up with reality. Anyways, he's like a sloth. How cool are sloths?
Sloths are amazing.
Sloths are cool.
Did you ever see the Attenborough one where one was just like, it just went for like a 2-mile swim between islands?
Aye, I've seen that.
That was brilliant.
I've seen that.
I heard it.
Majestic.
Sloths stay in the trees for so long because they're such easy prey, and the most vulnerable they ever are is when they're taking a shit, because they have to go to the ground to find a wee hole to take a shit, and they're taking a shit for like 3 hours.
But what part of their evolution has said they have to shit on the ground? Do you know what I mean? Like everything else about them is said to avoid predators, stay up as high as you can for as long as you can.
Did you
but then they go.
Sorry, did you say they stay in trees because they're vulnerable? Like
Yeah.
So
But literally,
so they purposely make themselves vulnerable
to take a dump. I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Surely they've evolved to go. If we just shit, just have a look down. Make sure your Mrs. Sloth isn't down below you. It's fucking shitting me again.
So apparently, right, they hang about in trees, obviously, and they get all their food and stuff for the trees. And I was right, they go down to the ground to poo, but they actually poo a third of its body weight because they wait for so long before they take a shit, because that's their most vulnerable point.
Do you know that comes?
It's Rebecca Cliff from Swansea. So there.
How have they survived, like evolutionary? How have they made it to this point?
I know.
Have you ever seen how slow they actually are, though?
Yes,
It's a
it's.
stupid thing to say, but see, like
I watch it in real time.
Aye, it's fucking weird.
There's you wouldn't have seen it because why would you? But there's a movie called
Zootopia.
Zootopia. You
Yeah,
have seen it then, mate. Aye.
I think
James, have you seen it?
I think I have. Aye, is there like an evil tiger in it? Is that no?
No.
There's like a detective in it.
There's a mayor who's a lion. Yeah,
There's
you're
a
right.
detective, aye.
I have.
But there's a bit where they're in a rush and they go to the DMV or something. They need to get something done, or they need to look up a license plate. And they said, "Oh, sorry, I've got a connection in here." And they walk into the DMV and it's just all sloths working in the place. And it's just I did a wee lol. But Theo was watching it yesterday. There's a bit where they go, one of them says to the sloth, "Oh, we'll speed this up. Or do you want to hear a joke? What do you call a 3-humped camel?" And then he's like, "I don't know what."
Don't know.
And Kevin Kyle again.
Kevin
And,
Kyle's
and then the punchline's pregnant. A 3-humped camel's pregnant. So then the sloth laughs and they're like, "Right, we're really in a rush here." And he goes, "Wait there." And he goes to tell his wee sloth next to him the joke, and it's taken for it. I think every week I've ruined some stand-up comedy bits. Last week's show, and now I've just ruined
beloved kids
Punchline.
animated comedy.
For fuck's sake.
Next week it's musical comedy. I'm going to ruin.
Ruins it.
Mate,
Which can't be ruined, but I'll give it a go. Can't be made worse.
Exactly. So apparently sloths have a really low metabolic rate, and that's why they move really slow. I don't know why. I don't know what purpose that benefits them, but that's why.
Isn't Sid a sloth in Ice Age?
Aye, but he's really fast, isn't he?
Aye, there's like no gimmick where he's slow. Why did they make him a sloth?
Is he a sloth?
Yeah,
I
doesn't
think
he?
it's called Sid the Sloth. I think he is.
I know, but it wouldn't make sense, would it?
No.
Unless they have evolved
Andy-
stupidly and they have got slower as they've evolved through millions of years.
And he can talk in the movie, whichever, right?
And they've lost that, haven't they? They've lost that over years.
Who is it that plays Sid the Sloth? I don't know.
I feel as if it's really obvious, but I'm trying to think
It's
of the
know.
John Leguizamo.
John
I know
Leguizamo.
that guy. I know that guy. But see, the thing is, Ray Romano should have played the Sloth. He shouldn't have played the big, what do you call it, a mammoth.
Aye, he was
Ray
the
Romano
mammoth, wasn't he?
Like, he should totally.
You fucking
They'll probably try and bring that back, by the way. I read the other day that they're bringing Fraser back.
I love it. I'm all for it. Hopefully they don't go after the canned laughter aspect again. But
I think it's very hard, mate, because it was already... I loved Fraser. I was a kid when I was watching that, and even then I loved it.
Who was
But I
Fraser
think
again? Who played him?
Kelsey Grammer.
Alright, I was thinking David Hyde Pierce. Have you seen the video of Kelsey Grammer like falling off a stage?
no, but that's
Oh.
Oh, look up, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like an award ceremony or something, but he's just walking over the stage and then he fucking falls right off. And then he goes, I'm pretty sure you hear him going, oh dear Lord.
I was just going to chime in with some Kelsey Grammer facts that I knew, but they're a bit dark and depressing, so let's just leave it with the poor man.
No, I want to
falling
hear
off
them.
What? He's a multi-millionaire that's
He's
had
not
nothing but wins, so give us some bad news about him.
If Kevin Kyle and Kelsey Grammer are both listening, I'll be fucking ecstatic. So just say it.
So basically, are you guys hearing me? Is there like feedback?
Nah, but you're good. You're good.
Right. So basically, I can't remember if this is exactly right, but I remember reading it years ago that his sister killed herself or something, and shortly after it, like his mum killed herself, and then his dad was like a convicted murderer or something. Like for somebody that's so in the public eye and like seems like a nice dude, like he's been on Cheers, he's been Frasier, he's lovable, like he's had a really hard life, and apparently, the kick that he had, he was like really in a down mood, and then September 10th, 2001, he cancelled. He got really pissed at night. He got unbelievably pissed, and he missed his plane journey that was meant to be obviously 9/11.
Oh my! Every celebrity is a missed the plane.
I know,
9/11
but apparently it's true. Apparently it's true. I heard the one about Seth MacFarlane. That's a pile of shite. That's a pile of shite.
You reckon?
What?
Steve Ranazizi's is great.
Who's Steve Rann?
Is that the?
You know,
Is that the
he
made it up?
aye, he's and he did stand up, and then he was in a show called The League, which is about.
I've seen that.
It's quite good about mates that are in a fantasy football NFL league.
Right.
And like they're grown men, they've got kids and all about all the daft shit they do to each other in this league. Anyway, his story was I think he was already doing comedy, and then to gain some notoriety, he told people that he was a survivor. He was in one of the towers, and managed to get out, and then was telling all this story. But I think he thought that would just be, would propel him off a wee bit, and then he could go off. But the thing is, in all these interviews and that, that was what they would talk about. That was the crux of everything was tell us your 9/11 story, tell us, tell us your 9/11 story, and then it would just keep going. And then eventually it was just like, I need to come clean here. That's all a lie. I wasn't there. I was in, I don't think he was even in New York at the time. He was somewhere else. But the thing is, people then started slating him. But
of course they should.
Which is, of course. I'm not finished, Peter. But they're slating him, which I think he took it as like, fine, fair enough. But it's almost as if people then disregarded that he was still hard-working and talented and did the thing. And he apologised about 10,000 times and said he shouldn't have done it. It was insensitive to anyone watching. It was even more insensitive to the families of people that actually did die, or the trauma of people that managed to survive.
Yeah. And
did that so many times, but there's still people that are just like, nah, you're still a prick.
I was in New York in May of 2000, so I missed the flight by about a year.
So you are a
4
survivor.
months. That's my story. I'm a survivor. 'Cause we were
So
going
that's how we're going to boost this podcast.
was
It's going to be
with
called The Survivor's Story.
I was with my parents, and they said to me that we were going to go on holiday a year and 5 months later, and last minute we decided to go out. We just missed it.
I have a wee addendum to
fucked
do.
up.
Apparently, Kelsey Grammer's sister did not kill herself. Apparently, she was murdered. So that's what makes it
Jesus.
even darker. So she was murdered, and then a year later, his dad was murdered in a home invasion. So I knew it was something dark.
He's got to be asking himself, is he the common denominator in all these tragedies?
Aye. You're feeling sorry for him. I'm thinking he's suspect number one.
he's just a bad omen.
He's just actually Sideshow Bob in real life, and no one's caught him yet.
There you go.
I'm going to look up that video. I'm falling off stage.
Somebody get a big pile of rakes and just set them out his front door. But a wee light-hearted 9/11 thing. Do you know the story about Steve Buscemi?
Yeah.
He's a firefighter.
Yeah.
Picking
So he
bodies
dropped
out there.
everything and just went and helped fight the fires and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that's got a lot of cartoon credits, isn't he? He's just got that distinct voice that you could give to any kind of rodent or anything like that, man.
He should be Sid the Sloth. He looks like Sid the Sloth.
Aye,
Sid
he'd be
Buscemi
alright.
is Sid the Sloth.
Aye.
He's in Hotel Transylvania.
Right.
He plays like a werewolf or something. Those are great films.
Right,
I quite like the first one.
How dare you?
I'm sorry.
That's shocking. And apparently Steve Buscemi is in every Adam Sandler movie. So there's another wee fact there.
Oh, I could believe that.
Good friends.
Well, Hotel Transylvania is an Adam Sandler one, isn't it?
Yeah. My girlfriend's getting me to watch one. She wants me to watch Murder Mystery. Have you seen it?
Yes, I've seen that.
Is it good?
It's fine. It's fine.
Adam Sandler movies in it.
Aye.
Like,
It's better than the Halloween one, which is...
oh, that was shocking. That was the first movie we watched when we
Ah,
started like seeing each other. It was horrendous.
Oh, it's painful, mate. Painful.
Oh.
It was like, what other cringy joke can we shoehorn in to each scene?
There's only
And I like Adam Sandler, but
Me too, but there's only so long you can play that character when he's young.
Exactly,
You know what I
mate.
mean? When you're in your 20s, you can get away with it, but when you're in your 50s, like, no chance. No chance, mate. James, we're just talking about how much Adam Sandler needs to do new shit. Can you hear me? But James,
no,
we're
I
just
was here.
talking about how much Adam Sandler needs to do new shit, and he can't keep going back to the well of you know?
Well, he won't revisit Little Nicky after Ricky Gervais ripped it off when he did Derek. So
No.
that's fucked.
I didn't realise the comparison until you said that a few weeks ago.
I didn't realise.
And now I see it. You can't really unsee it. You're like, it's the same character.
That's what
Even
you do
here-
when you play a disabled person. You just click your jaw a bit and pull your hair to the front. Because that's what all disabled people look like.
Oh, good.
Good. Now we've cleared that up. Is there
Aye.
anything else I was going to talk about there and it just slipped out my brain?
And James just...
It was something nice as well.
I was being sarcastic. God damn
Aye.
it.
This is not the sarcastic podcast.
Nah.
No,
Uncut
well,
Gems
that'll
was
be
good.
next
That toyed with your heartstrings. Do you see that?
Aye. Adam Sandler does
No.
good dramatic. Oh, you should see Uncut Gems. It's good. He does good dramatic stuff. He did a film called Rain Over Me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually about 9/11. So
Oh,
he's
really?
like he's like these wife and kids get killed on 9/11. I think they're on the plane or whatever. Aye, and it's not a comedy. It's just like a drama with Don Cheadle, but it's really good. He's like did, aye, good dramatic role.
Yeah.
One of the few he did. Did you watch
Yeah,
his
I-
comedy special?
Yeah, I watched it, yeah.
I watched
Actually,
a bit of it.
Actually, kind of took me by surprise. Like, it was just kind of playful and funny. Like, it didn't
I
really-
enjoyed it.
Aye, it was almost like an alternative comedian. Do you know what I mean?
It was just him going on the stage. He had like his band and that, and he literally just looked like a guy that was having fun.
It was just silly. Like,
You know what I mean?
I didn't mind it. I only
Either
watched
did
it
I.
again. Like, it wasn't a great special or particularly funny.
But
it was like,
that's the thing. I don't think it. he was aiming for that. He was just going out there to have fun with a crowd and his mates, and that's what it came across as. It wasn't trying to be incredibly clever, which
Do you know what?
we wouldn't have
You
been
recently-
expecting anyway.
You guys see that Kevin Hart special where he did it in his pajamas?
No, I don't.
Mate.
Even the trailer, I wasn't keen, and it never grasped.
Pretended
Never.
it was in his house, and there's no way that's his house. Like, he has a stage and everything. Like, there's no chance. That's totally
I don't know.
Netflix had set that up, and they were
Aye,
like,
but he could have built a stage in his living room.
aye, no, but it wasn't like that. It was just fake. It was fake as fuck.
But how much do they commit to the kind of the actor that had been in his house? Like, was it just a kind of gimmick? Do you know what I mean?
No, but it was played on quite hard.
Oh, right, okay.
Like, he was wearing PJs and he was in his house, and
Seen him in the Patrice O'Neill documentary. I knew he was like part of that crowd, like coming up and stuff.
Well, that was.
at the round table at the back of the Comedy Cellar, innit?
When I listened to Kevin Hart's autobiography on Audible. This podcast sponsored by Audible. And it was, I thought it was really good, man. I thought it was, because everyone, I think he's one of those guys that just, everyone assumed just blew up when he was like 30, just came out of nowhere and was all of a sudden in loads of movies with The Rock and is doing stand-up to stadiums full. But then when you actually read his autobiography, and he's been just battering it since he was 18 or something. He used to be called Little Kev the Bastard. That was his stage name.
Really? He's kind of like our generation's sort of Eddie Murphy in a way. Like, obviously, the material completely different, polar opposite from Eddie Murphy's material. But like, I just like pure film workhorse. And that.
Aye. I think like he's. Do you think you would ever, like Eddie Murphy did, just step away from comedy and just get engulfed in movies?
What, Kevin Hart would?
Yeah.
I think he should.
The thing is,
he should.
see, maybe not, because see when you're him and you're playing stadiums, see the money he makes from a few nights at a stadium, it's worth it. So like Eddie Murphy back in the day, stand up, like it's like disproportionately paid when you're at a level like Kevin Hart's at. So Eddie, there's probably more money in films, multi-million dollar. Kevin Hart probably make a few million from doing a stadium, like a few nights at a stadium. Because Bill Burr's a weird one. Like he did this. Did he not do like Madison Square Garden? I think he did like another.
He did, yeah.
And then I think he'd do smaller venues. Like I seen him at, I can't remember what was in it. Did you see him at Edinburgh at the Fringe like 2 years ago?
Who, Bill Burr?
Yeah.
No, I saw him at the Fringe maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Maybe time's getting away.
It was.
Are we talking about Bill Burr?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Right.
But he wasn't doing a Fringe run. It just happened to be whoever books his gigs
Right.
said you'll be in the UK in July and August. We'll book you into Edinburgh at that time. And he's like, cool. And he didn't know until leading up to it that the place is a fucking cesspit.
Yeah, I went to see him at the Armadillo like a couple of years back, and he was phenomenal, mate. Like, I don't know if it was the Paper Tiger special that he did, and like I've
saw that as well.
on my sort of, they keep saying Mount Rushmore, right? That's a very American kind of colloquialism, but for me it's the Three Bills. I know you guys, well maybe you Scott, I don't know, but I know James, you have a bit of an indifference to Bill Hicks, but for me it was the Three Bills. It was like Bill Hicks, Billy Connolly, and Bill Burr. For me, when I was growing up, that's
Bill
just
Bailey.
what I watched.
I'll
And
put
it-
Bill
it let
Bailey
me-
in there. Place that.
Bill Bailey now, I give him a lot more credit now than when I was a kid. I didn't really watch much, but recently I started watching like Black Books and stuff like that, and I'd put him.
Oh, Black Books is great.
I know you
Black
watched
Books is
Black
phenomenal.
Books,
Dylan Moran is sensational, man. Sensational. But it was kind of a wee toe in every sort of pond, and when I went to go see Bill Burr, I was in my element. Like I cannot believe a guy can, like, the crowd wasn't huge. It was, I don't know, like a good few thousand, but the
Was that
fact
the
that he
Clyde
could,
Auditorium?
that
Is
was
this-
Armadillo.
Those
Oh,
are the
yeah,
same
oh, yeah,
thing.
yeah.
aye.
Is that the same
Aye.
thing?
Yeah.
Did
yeah.
Adam Rowe open for him?
Yes, he did.
Aye, I
He
was
did.
there as well. I went to that night.
Yeah,
I went to it
Not one.
the week after that in Manchester.
right.
and it was Adam Rowe that opened as well.
Yeah, he kind of comes up whenever a decent American comic's up. I know when Andrew Schultz came over, it was Adam that opened for him, and then actually Andrew has helped him quite a lot with that Have a Word pod.
Is that right?
It's See If You Watch, both the podcasts. They're not similar, but they're of the same ilk. You know, they've got their own studios and stuff like that, and it's brilliant. Like him helping a comic over the phone.
If you see how it promotes and everything else, and how they when they put in the ad breaks and all that, it's calculated. It's but really, really well done.
Pardon me.
Yeah, but what were we on about? Kevin Hart.
All the bills.
All the bills.
Relax.
Yeah. So I remember that part as well. We'll look it back. Like Bill Burr was part of that comedy seller roundtable with Patrice O'Neill and Kevin Hart and who else was on it? Who else was
Rich
it?
was Keith Robinson, who I seen in New York. He was really good. I think he's had a stroke since. So when I seen him, like his whole left side of his body was fucked. Can't move his arm, has to support it. I seen him, and there was a female comic in the documentary. I think her name is Marina Franklin. She's fucking hilarious, man. She's really good. She's shit hot, man. She was on the bill.
Who else? That's fun. Colin Quinn as well. I think he was one of the ones that used to do the round table. And they used to come. I don't know if you guys. Jim Norton and what's the other guy?
The baldy guy, or Dave Attell as well.
No. Dave Attell was there, but he wasn't really part of the table. The other guy from Boston that was friends with Bill Burr, the big kind of chubby baldy guy.
Like Nick DePaul.
Oh, what's his name? No. I'm gonna have to.
Robert Kelly.
Google that one.
Yeah, Bobby Kelly. That's it, Bobby Kelly. I remember what we were talking about there.
Just the round table. I from Kevin Hart's autobiography, he was saying about it was kind of the ambition to get to that table.
Yeah.
Because he would, him and Big J. Okerson, were basically just drivers for these people. They would just drive them from gig to gig. And they would go up, do the material, have a few drinks, and then they would take them. And then they never got to sit at the table. And Big J. Okerson was saying to Kevin Hart, he's like, mate, this is bonkers. We're spending hours every week that we could be on stage driving these folk around. But but then they kept at it and eventually got to they would have a hack court as well at that table. Where they would review someone's jokes for that night, and they would say, right, and they would just do a poll of, right, is that hacky enough? If it's too hacky, then he has to cut it. And apparently, they were just brutal with each other, but brutal to a point where they all.
It's weird to see Gary Gulman.
That's what you needed,
that era. Gary Gulman, he was in the documentary as well. He's great, man. It's just his style of comedy. I can't imagine him like holding court. Like, I mean, he's hilarious, but it just that kind of vicious attacking mentality that those comedians had. It's weird to imagine him in the mix, but Gary Gulman's great. He's brilliant, man.
It's definitely respect. Like when someone is clinical and knows exactly what they're doing. Like even if there's guys that's like have a laugh guys in the back, they'll respect you. You know, it's like we all know different sorts of comics and folk that are loud and abrasive and folk that are kind of quiet and unassuming. Like, see when I see the likes of like Paul McDaniel on stage, that's what I think. Like the guy just knows what he's doing. He's been at it for a while. He's clean. He's just phenomenal. Like he's actually phenomenal. And then I go up there and dance about like a fucking clown. Like a
nobody
monkey.
makes me laugh on Paul McDaniel, man. He's so funny.
It is unbelievable. You can't describe to folk how good it is seeing him in a room with his clipboard. It's just fantastic, man.
Like who just sits there and just comes up with a punchline? I'm not going to ruin it. Well, I'm not going to say it.
I'm not
going to say it. But some of these punchlines are just random lines. It's just timing. Like it's not just timing. He's got loads of feathers to his bow. I don't want to put you down, Paul.
He's just one of those people that he is Paul McDaniel. Do you know what I mean? It's not. Not that. Like if we all swapped material, we could maybe go and try and do it. I could not do. You could give me word for word what he says, and it's not going to be funny. regardless if I try it 100 times.
We love.
He's such a nice guy as well. At the beginning of lockdown, I put up some reference to when he was doing those that don't impress me much, that don't impression Paul at all. You know those videos.
Yeah.
So I did something and put it up, and I'd referenced him or something, and he sent me a message. He was like, I'll get you on at some point. So like 150 comics down the line, he just flings me a wee message like, you still interested? I was like, aye, I'd love to do it, because I wanted to add that to my bowl. I wanted to add impressions into my spiel. No. So, no. So he sent me a lovely message, and like we were talking just a wee bit, like how's things and that. And he was like, "Oh, I'll get you on," and he just hasn't. But it's the sort of person that like
you went for him.
What?
I'm saying you went for him.
No, it's just maybe, or maybe he'll get back to me at some point.
That was a reference to one of his jokes, so never mind.
It just seemed like I get it. He just seemed like he seemed like a nice guy.
Yes.
He is a
Any
nice
other
guy.
arses we can lick?
Plenty.
I'd quite like to let my own. There's a segue into Marilyn Manson there. Do you guys ever get that story at school about how he got 2 ribs removed so he could give himself?
It's absolute nonsense.
It's nonsense. I know it's nonsense. I love believing it could be true.
But it's one of when you were at school, there wasn't like Google and social media, so like it'd be for stuff like that. It'd always be like one of my big brother's mates would say that, but he would say it with such conviction. He'd go, but by the time you got to school, he'd removed 8 ribs, not just the 2.
Aye.
And then, but after that, like, Marilyn Manson never had ribs.
I know. He was a weird fucker, man. And all the shit that's coming out nowadays, like, totally.
He's dodgy, isn't he?
He's heavy dodgy. He's heavy.
Marilyn Manson is a wrong.
Who would have thought it? The man that ate a sheep live on TV, like blood in his mouth, sat there and just ate a bit of sheep. Aye.
Did you ever see the video of him falling on stage? This is why I just.
Do you just spend your nights watching celebrities fall?
Falling on a stage. And there's a lot.
James has like predictive text, falls off a stage, and then he just substitutes in any random celebrity's name on the off chance.
No, he doesn't fall off a stage. I think and it's like recent, so it's like he's like in his 70s now, man. So he's doing a show, and he climbs up like one of his props, and he just like falls off it and like grazes his knee, breaks his ankle or whatever. And it's like,
that's a big difference, mate, between graze your knee and break your ankle.
Sort of that, or he does a heart attack. I don't know, but it's just the way he's dressed. And he's like, "I am death," and then he fucks off this prop, and he's going, "Ow."
He definitely didn't break any ribs.
There's nothing better than an emo in mild pain. That's what I like see when you see them, just like, oh no.
Did you used to go and give dead arms to goth kids in your school, Peter? It's horrible.
Come here, Jesus, or whatever you fucking calling yourself.
Jesus?
I don't know. I was trying to think of a weird emo name. What would they call it? Like Jezebel or something?
Like Brian. Paul.
I knew one that was Robert.
No. I had ones at school that they would change their name to like Raven and Willow and fucking Jade and stuff like that. But it was like guys.
Oh, right, a guy called Jade.
Guys would change their name to like Jade, like the flower.
Well, just to jump on top of Peter's point, I think that anyone can call themselves anything. I don't share the views of Peter Watik. That's Watik.
Mate, you can call yourself
Find them on all social media platforms.
Apart from
the ones that they think that women should have equal rights.
Hey. No. I'm not one of those Arabs. Sorry. I believe everyone's equal.
I was browsing
Everyone is equal.
Al Jazeera.
You're 5'2", you should have your chance at performing in the NBA.
Did you see over 6,000 people have died in Qatar? And I went on to Al Jazeera, and I searched World Cup on Al Jazeera's website, which is like owned by the Qatari government, and it's just pure. It's going to be another great World Cup, which is like an article from last August.
Is there anything that shows corruption in world football more than Qatar getting the World Cup?
I was
Mate,
laughing
it's shocking,
about
man.
us, but and it's like independently owned and part funded by the Qatari government. But it says like it states emphatically that it's independently run. Independent from what? Other news sites? What the fuck is that?
But see the thing about Al Jazeera is like we've known this stuff for a while. Like, even on the Arabic sort of news channels, it's poor Malaysians and Indonesians that were dying, like building the stadiums and stuff. Like, folk know about it, but they don't really do anything about it. But the thing about Al Jazeera that some folk don't know is that the English version of Al Jazeera is quite bipartisan. It's quite kind of what's the word? Kind of modern, and you'll read their stories and you'll go, "Oh, I agree with that." You know, they're no left, they're no right, they're kind of down the middle. But see, as soon as you put on, wait, chime in.
No, I was going to say you say that, but then they fail to report on certain things.
That's different. No, but what I'm saying is, like, see, when you go in the Arab and you read the Arab Al Jazeera or you listen to the Arab, it's like proper anti-Semitism, like heavy, like, right, and they're plainly, they come out and say it, but whenever they have a news story with that sort of stuff in it, when it conveniently makes its way to be translated into English, none of that stuff's in it. Like, it's really interesting. And see, if you don't speak Arabic, you don't really catch on. So I get stuff like, there was some things that my dad will watch and he'll go, "Oh, this is terrible, this thing happening in fucking, I don't know, Egypt." And he's like, "Ah, ah, ah." And then I'll Google it and I'm like, it's not happening in Egypt. It's nothing in there. He's like, "Oh no, I seen it on Al Jazeera." And then I go on Al Jazeera's website, like you said.
I'm on Al Jazeera, the Arabic site, and I've just translated it in English. And the first words say the Jews are responsible for, and there's just ellipses. So I'm going to scroll down. And it's a massive page. Jesus. I've never seen the scroll bar so small. Really anti-Semitic.
Yeah, well, loads of different stuff, you know, homophobic, and yeah, there's some weird shit in it. I think there was a guy on YouTube, I think he might have been Jewish. I mean, I assume he was Israeli, but I can't remember his name, but he did like a sort of exposure of Al Jazeera. Because I always thought Al Jazeera was quite PC nowadays. Like, I always thought when I was young, like, if you watch BBC, they used to be left leaning, like Sky News used to be right leaning. I'll stick on Al Jazeera or Euronews and it'll be like in the middle, you know. But it's just the thing I've seen recently is like football teams are getting in on it. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but see, like, you know how a lot of Premier League football teams and Scottish football teams, they have like Pride Week or Pride Month where they all wear like the rainbow laces.
Yeah.
Right. So they all have different feeds, like different social media feeds for different countries. Right. So they'll have like Liverpool Arab and Liverpool whatever. And for like the Liverpool Arab one, there's absolutely no reference to Pride. Like when Liverpool signed Yossi Benayoun, who's an Israel player, they never put it up on their Arabic. They don't reference it on their Arabic Twitter feed. So it's I think everyone, like, no one is truly altruistic.
So if it's like a Jewish footballer scores an amazing goal, they just won't acknowledge it.
If they win 2-0, they'll just say no, it was 1-0. They started with 10 men. It was really weird.
Do you remember in the World one of the World Cups, like North Korea said they got to the final and like they beat Portugal and Ronaldo scored 2 and one of their players scored 3 or something, and everyone in North Korea believed it because they were just broadcasting it over the nation. Do you guys remember that? No?
I know that they had like a history of just like misreporting and stuff. Obviously, so
like they were the first people on the moon and all that.
Aye.
I mean, maybe they were. Who knows?
Oh, has anyone been on the moon, Peter?
Why are you asking me?
Look up Al Jazeera.
6,500 people have died, like in the making of the World Cup, and like they're mainly cited as natural causes. they're just hiring.
falling off a dodgy scaffold as natural causes.
They all had their bus passes when we hired them. They were on the out. I think it's just like they can.
No, we shouldn't be laughing at that shit.
No, it's not. But it's not laughing at the people that are dead. Mate. It's laughing at the ludicrous
It's ridiculous.
reasons and excuses that are given it.
I don't know.
It's ridiculous.
Fuck's sake, man.
Apparently the North Korea thing was they played a group stage game in 2010 against Portugal and they get pumped 7-0. But they edited the footage in such a way that it looked like North Korea beat Portugal, and then they stuck that. They played it to the population and said that it was the final of the 2010 World Cup and that North Korea were the champions.
They just got up. 2010 was in South Africa, so they probably just got 11 South African kids outside the stadium. They went to a local pitch and said, "Right, play them instead. We'll video it and we'll say this is the actual final."
How would they edit it?
I don't know, but I remember
They just showed 10 minutes of the game where there wasn't a Portugal goal.
Just saw a couple of corners, the ball's being whipped in the box, and then just folks celebrating, and that's it. But like, I think that was the World Cup that they sent like 10,000 Chinese nationals to pretend to be North Korean, to pretend to be North Korean fans and celebrate in the stadium because they didn't want anyone to leave their country. Obviously, I'm sure that was the same one.
North and South Korea played each other. The qualifiers for the World Cup and drew 0-0. I didn't know that.
Where did they? Where would they have played it?
South Korea.
Right across the border. The border.
I was probably like 10-0.
The halfway line was a border, and no one would cross.
No one could
They
cross.
just try to shoot from their own half the whole game.
It was just Heung-min Son just taking a fucking free kick for his own half and trying to score
It was
every
the
2
biggest
seconds.
game of longies ever recorded. No.
They were looking for a curb just to kick them off.
I turn this light on. It's fucking dark in here.
It is, mate.
So how North Korea took Spain's 2010 World Cup triumph and handed... No, wait, one of these things is saying that they handed it to Portugal, apparently. So, apparently they stopped short some places of saying that they won the cup, but that they got to the final. So...
Oh, that's good. That makes it more believable, doesn't it? I mean, us winning it would be ludicrous. Let's just say we got to the final.
We got to the final and we lost 3-2.
I'm pretty sure they did score a goal. I think they played Brazil, maybe, in that World Cup, and I'm fairly sure they did manage to score a goal, which is like the biggest achievement for in their history.
They did 2-1 Brazil in 2010.
Maybe that was just the goal that they showed like 6 times. And then
It's for different angles.
they just changed the name on the back of the jersey and just showed it from a certain angle that you couldn't see who it was that scored. And they just did that consistently.
HITC7 subscriber Jack H commented on.
There we go. It popped up a YouTube video.
I was quite clear. If you play that, can we hear it?
I think so, but it wasn't a good video. It was some random thing that popped up.
What's the recording at, Scott?
45.
That's not bad. That's not bad. So,
Because I've almost run out of conversation.
You get 50 minutes a night, and then that's you. Your tongue just falls off.
Can I be
so much
excused again?
2 hours, mate.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, just talk about something else.
Do you have a prostate
No,
issue?
I'm gonna pour a drink.
Nice.
All right, okay. Get yourself a wee bit lubed up for the rest of the. That's fine.
I love. I see you're saying that we shouldn't laugh at that kind of stuff, man. Like I think can you actually imagine having to live somewhere like that? Like the jokes, like the North Korean stuff. Because I read something on the BBC News last week, the week before, and it was a woman describing what it's actually like. That it's not like us that right now we can just look up something.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Literally, the information that goes into your brain is controlled by the government, and there's no other than taking the risk of heading south or wherever China is. China might be west of them, depending on where you are, obviously, in the country. But that's the only way you can, is just taking this massive risk of getting to the neutral zone. But if you're caught, you just be killed.
See the sort of fear of sounding a bit conspiracy. We're kind of like that as well. Like, I know we can Google shit, but you can never truly get, like, it's actually a lot harder to get the exact information that you want nowadays. Like, I remember you used to fire something into Google and it pops up first thing, but now it's so many opinion pieces sort of thing in articles that are popping up first. Like, I googled that North Korea World Cup thing, and there was so much shite at the beginning. I had to scroll down a wee bit even to get to the Portugal result.
Oh, do you mean like the first few results are like people's opinion, like opinion pieces about it? Aye, I get it. Aye.
Do you know what's really pissed me off is, we'll wait till James to come back, right? Where's the wee headphone? There we are. There's the scraggly bastard.
Sorry.
So, we were talking about how, like, Scott was saying how hard it must be to live in one of these kind of oppressed countries and you can't get access to proper information. And what I was saying is it's actually getting difficult for us to access the proper information. I'm not saying like, oh, woe is me, but even the thing that's been pissing me off recently with these lockdowns, like, I've really got into cooking, like, quite a bit, and I've gotten quite decent at it with the baking or the cooking, and I spend 99% of my time cooking, right? And without fail, every website that I Google a recipe on, it's like 6 pages of folks' opinion before they give me the bloody recipe.
Oh, I've spoken about this before as well.
Does my tits in, man? Like, I don't give a shit what your gran used to make you. I don't give a shit that it used to be cold in Wiltshire. Like, just tell me how many eggs I need. Like, come on.
I've done that before as well. During the first lockdown, was trying to make a chasni, which is like a sweet Indian curry.
Yeah.
And I just put in chasni recipe into Pinterest or something, and then it was like that. You go into it, and all I want to see is the first bit. I want to just see what the ingredients I need, and then I want to see the method for doing it.
You're in the shop, you want to know what you need to buy.
Exactly. I need that in 30 seconds or less. But what you get is somebody's story about, growing up in Glasgow, the chasni is actually very popular amongst youngins.
And you're just scrolling through a story about the history of sexual abuse.
But it could be something like that, but it's just so that they can put advertisements down the right hand side.
That's exactly what it is, and that's what I was making reference to. Like, there's so much about money and about, it's all about ads nowadays, and that's what I was going to say. Right, we always used to say, like, when we were at school, that it must be horrible, like you said, living in one of these countries that's oppressed, right? And my dad's from a country, like, I'm from a country, Morocco, where for a large period of time you couldn't say what you wanted to say. You could say 90% of what you wanted to say, but if anything was sort of negative or derogatory about the monarch in Morocco, that there was like undercover policemen everywhere, even sitting in cafes. Like, they used to tell them, do not have a shower this morning, because the folk always expect policemen to be clean cut, at least smell nice. So if they're undercover, like, you can kind of, you know who they are.
You can smell them.
They used to go in looking like Jakies. Yeah, and if you said anything wrong before you knew it, you'd be lifted. Like, my dad used to say a few of his friends were lifted and put into jail for a few weeks and then just learned a lesson. Like, they weren't killed or anything like that. But it's gotten a lot better. But what we've seen nowadays is we always thought it was like oppression and sort of limiting information getting out, like North Korea. But it's not. It's all about data. That's what I've realised recently. Like, see these things, you know how they have their own, like, WhatsApp?
What, in Morocco? Or, like,
so we have it in Morocco. They banned WhatsApp a wee while back, but they brought it forward because the tech companies in Morocco were shite and they couldn't make a decent app. But if we take, like, example, like in China, they have their own sort of WhatsApp thing. And the reason they do it is because they don't want a tech company from another country taking their country's data. It's not about information, it's about what you can use that data for in order to sell and advertise and make more money. It's all about money. I'm sounding a bit conspiracy, but it's just nowadays we've realised it just all boils down to money. It's not freedom, it's not oppression of expression, it's just money. Let's go with that. If you guys fancy having a wee chat on that.
No, is Morocco right at the edge of the world? Like, if you would fall off?
Edge. You just fall off a stage.
Kelsey Grammer decked it when he came in the locker.
He got
Right.
he got to Marrakesh and just
If we
fucking
just
head
talk about
planted.
important stuff. I'm just going to sit in celebrity.
Just watch people falling over.
What other podiums can you fall off? Like trampoline.
Your high horse.
Falls off
Aye,
trampoline.
that's a big one.
Barely any results. Ah. What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Just
Jim.
about money.
Money being the centre of our world.
I do hate listening to people moan about the whole Cambridge Analytica thing with Facebook. Like, I don't really put anything on Facebook at all. Like, me and Meg don't really post pictures or anything really. Just don't feel compelled. Two, I like a certain level of privacy. Aye, and then three, just don't need the attention. But I hated people moaning about it, and I mean, you really can. You could just study a few pictures and kind of work out where someone lives or their interests and stuff. So I can see why data is so important to these companies. But so the same people that moan about it just live their life like vicariously through social media.
Yeah.
If you go on it too often, other people's comments could wind you up more. But then you question yourself, like, well, why are you going on and checking it in the first place?
Yeah.
I'm a reader of comment sections, like just a complete voyeurist. I just go on YouTube, and if it's like a video that could be like contentious, in fact, it doesn't even have to be a contentious. Like, you could go down and the people just argue in the comment section, and I just sit and read the arguments, and just feel superior.
So you go into the Kelsey Grammer falling off stage video and scroll to the
just
comments.
Arguments about gravity down in the comments. I think what we're trying to do is bring Fraser back, is what we're trying to say.
That was what we were trying to get to.
That's why
I'm all for that.
because really these companies are just getting your information so that they can bring.
They can make you
back.
watch Fraser.
Do you know?
The only thing is the dad is dead.
Yeah, he died a while back.
And I'm unsure, but Eddie might be dead.
Another tragedy.
Eddie's been dead a while. Aye. There was a few Eddies in that programme.
Oh, don't ruin the magic.
So there was a couple of them. Aye, there was the son, and then there was the dad that was in it. But the John Mahoney was from Manchester. I didn't realise he was English, but when I watched it in the beginning, and then the woman that plays Daphne, I think she's English as well, but she's not from Manchester. So he was the one that used to like give her tips on the accent, which was atrocious, to be fair.
I thought she was from Manchester, but I know she plays that in the show.
Like London, yeah, I think she's like London sort of Shakespearean educated sort of thing. So she had quite a posh voice, and he taught her to speak like she was from Manchester. So that was interesting.
Do you ever watch Becker?
Yeah.
I think it got a lot of credit, to be fair.
Is that Ted Danson, isn't it?
They're all kind of similar shows to each other. But I need like a blind mate in it. I don't really know what that show was about. Was he like a...
I think he was
Was he not a doctor?
Not a GP or something?
Something like that, aye.
But again, it was the same. There was certain places where scenes always took place. I think it was like a cafe or something. Well, Friends was a coffee shop, so it was like slightly different from a coffee shop. It was like a breakfast place or something. But I had a blind mate, and then it was just the guy that was supposedly hated people, but he was a GP, and then there would always be a moment where he actually helped someone when you're supposed to think that he's this heartless guy. But he's not really.
Mate, you've just described House. You've described every sort of medical
program. House is... There you are. House was based off of Becker.
I mean, the best thing
it wasn't exactly based off of Sherlock Holmes, but aye.
Wow, I don't know any of these actors.
What you doing now?
What you
in? Becker cast: Hattie Winston, Shawnee Smith, Alex Desert, Terry Farrell. You're listening to the IMDb cast reading podcast.
I think. Do you know who was in it? I don't know why that image sticks in my head, but do you remember? Did you ever watch Lost?
I've seen bits of it. Aye.
Do you know that the big guy, the big heavy guy,
Oh, the big fat guy. Yeah.
Hurley? I'm sure his name was.
Jorge Garcia.
He was in Becker as well. I'm sure.
Hector Lopez, so he was.
He's
Do you know who's always?
Is he Latin?
Do you know who's always typecast? Do you remember
I think he's Mexican, mate. Yeah.
Jorge? Aye,
think
Jorge is Spanish, wasn't it? So it'll be Mexican or something. But you know the guy who was always typecast, the big fat guy. He was like the sidekick guy, and oh fuck, I've just had a brain fart. He was.
Describe the show. Just describe the show.
It wasn't Eastbound, and My Name is Earl.
Yep.
Have you seen him?
Oh, he's pure Jack now, isn't he? He's,
Fit, isn't he?
aye.
He looks at me. It might be like not even a celebrity. It might be like the best weight loss transformation I think I've ever seen in my life. He looks amazing.
Aye. I listened to him on Joey Diaz's podcast. I think they're good mates. Because Diaz has been on My Name is Earl.
Right.
But aye, it just looks so unhealthy. Like just that fat pouring out everywhere. And yeah, he's now, he looks like he'd be in WWE.
Mm-hmm. He's Jack.
Unreal, man.
He looks good. What's he up to?
Steroids is what he's up to.
I don't know. I think he might be natty. That's a term I know from my my googling of fitness stuff.
What's your fitness plan, James? I need some inspiration, mate. I just got a treadmill this week.
Really?
Aye, it was a freebie.
So
So it's out in the garage.
I just what I do is like I work out and eat well consistently for like 7 weeks, and then I have a beer and a pizza like to celebrate on the Saturday night, and then my world falls apart after that. For like 8 months. Just now, I don't.
So it's the 7 to 8 diet. That's what you would call it.
It's a 7-8 split. So it's 7 weeks on, 8 months off. So my 8 months is like the off season, and then my 7 weeks is. I meal prep just now, so I get glass Tupperware containers just because everything tastes better out of glass, doesn't it? Like ginger bottle.
Yeah. Yep.
And I started making like breakfast muffins, like a McMuffin.
Yeah.
On a Sunday, I make hundreds of turkey rashers, and I just mix up like 7 eggs and egg whites, and then I oven bake them, and then I just like make them into a wee pile of squares with 2 turkey rashers on a muffin, and then you just put them in wax paper. And you're listening to the McMuffin podcast, and then you put them in baking paper, and then you freeze them, and you can just take them out, defrost them, and then you microwave them for like a minute in the paper.
There you go. Well,
That
now
sounds
you
alright,
get
man.
food by Ronald McDonald.
That was Joe Delaney. He's like a fitness YouTuber. He's kind of laddish, but he gives good advice, and he's like a natty guy, no steroids or anything. But
All right.
Oh, is natty like natural?
Aye. So I've got like some home gym shit that I've accumulated over the years. I've got in my own garage, just a weight bench and shit. But I'm so inconsistent, man. It's fucking hard. I don't know about you.
I'm the same.
Peter, you're in good shape. But I don't know if you're just like skinny by default.
Nah, I pretty much, but I go through periods I put in quite a bit of weight on. My thing is like I'm really good with fasting, so obviously I fast with Ramadan.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I'm feeling a bit off, I just I make sure I get whatever nutrients I need between the hours of like 7 and 9 at night, and then I don't eat anything during the day, pretty much. So that I know some folks say that's not healthy, but I just do it periodically to like reset my body. And actually, it seems to clear my mind up quite a bit. Like there's something to be said about fasting windows that I don't think people fully know. How good they are for the body. Listen, there's a reason why all these religions told you to do it. I don't think it's purely a religious thing. I think it's truly beneficial to your health.
To sell advertising space.
On Al Jazeera.
Aye, that's it. So, but basically, I got back into it. So I've been pretty much fasting for the past few weeks, and Ramadan's round the corner in about 6 weeks' time. But I've been fasting, and then I get told I've got a massive hernia. So that put a kibosh on exercising. so I can only go like walks. I'm trying to do like 15,000 steps a day, but it's hard, man.
Would
So
see Ramadan is it a 24-hour fast and then
no, it's
Just daylight, is it?
it's kinda it's sun up to sundown, but it's not as specific as that. Like it goes by your sort of prayer times.
right.
So there's 5 times in the day you can pray, and there's a period called Maghrib where you can pray just after the sun goes down, and that's when you can eat. But it's not just the eating thing. Like you're not really meant to swear, which kind of hurt my comedy quite a bit. Like when I've done, anyone's seen me. But I don't really swear in real life, but on stage I just feel natural and it just comes out. It just emphasises what I need to say.
Aye.
And it did hurt my timing quite a bit. I deliberately tried not to swear. You try not to have like impure thoughts, but that's hard, man. That's
How can you
hard.
not?
You can't. I mean, you look at a McMuffin and you're like, oh fuck you, man. Like,
Oh, I thought you meant like you wouldn't be able to like imagine punching somebody in the face.
no, that's
Every
fine.
second thought is impure, surely.
No, there's loads of stuff you can't do.
No, but like you can't help thoughts. They're invasive. They you know what I mean?
Exactly.
No,
Thought police here.
No,
No,
minute
it's
goes
not like
by,
that,
I would
it's
think
more-
about hanging myself.
it's it's no like you stop that initial thought. Like everyone has that first bad thought, but that first bad thought does not make you a bad person. It's kind of exaggerating that thought and thinking about it more. It's like nipping it in the bud. As long as you nip it in the bud, you're
But
alright.
that's like-
You're trying to keep
That's like
your
thought
body
doing
clean
all
and your
that.
mind.
Like, if you have the thought, you just expand on it. Like if you have a thought, it ain't going away.
It's hard because
No,
as
no.
soon as James said he always thinks about hanging himself, like I thought something, and then luckily you started speaking. Is it my thought? I don't want to say.
It takes a lot of training. It's like when people are meditating and stuff. It kind of gets a bit like that, but it is refreshing. I know you might think, oh, it's impossible, or whatever, but it is refreshing 1 month a year to do that, and then sort of just get back to what you're doing the rest of the
What
year.
is the Ramadan? You feast after it, don't you? After you finish fasting.
Aye, but I find
me
that when
through
you
the-
feast after it, like you feel worse than before you started, so you should kind of edge back into
Right,
it.
okay.
You shouldn't just stuff your
What
face.
Just gorge
What's
into it.
traditional
should
sort of? What's like what's like family?
Traditional
What's
food?
like hearty Muslim? What would you have?
Lamb, mate, anything with lamb.
Uh-huh.
Like we go out and we catch our own lamb, and like we take it home and we raise it.
Just
We
cutting
raise
about.
That's what we just like for us it's quite difficult. Like, I'm just running about Aberdeen, just chasing sheep,
I just try to catch a sheep.
Maybe far from
and then
everyone
usually
else.
what happens is you get a lamb for a bit and you let the kids play with it. Like we've talked about it before, but we've not really talked about it in the podcast. When I was a kid, I had a baby lamb in Morocco when I lived there, and it was called Sheepy. I wasn't a bright boy, but I loved it. I loved it, and we raised it, and we fed it, and we would treat it like a wee dog. We had its wee tennis balls, and it would run about the roof. We've all got open roofs in Morocco, and it was amazing. And then one morning, like you would always be woken up to like the light ban, you know, at the door, just bah, bah, and the wee rustle at the door. And one morning there was just no ban.
This is really
It was
us like Silence of the Lambs.
It really is, mate. It's really, like, there was nothing. And then I went up.
Do you still hear the lambs, Peter?
I do.
You still hear the screams?
Peter's baby sister is called Clarice.
So then what? That was it. Slaughtered.
So I went upstairs, and the whole of the roof was just covered in blood. Like it was that scene in The Shining, where it was just like a wall of it was just everywhere. And I just turned to my dad and I was like, "Where's Sheepy?" And he was like, "You'll see him later,
It
son.
was
You'll see
everywhere.
him
Did
later."
you feed it grenades? That's not halal. You say it was everywhere.
Uh,
mean, like,
just get a baseball bat with nails in it and just have at it.
you mean like parts of the lamb?
It was real life pinata. It was just like,
I thought you meant like blood was everywhere. Is that what you mean?
no blood was everywhere.
Alright,
That's
fucking
what.
hell. I thought it was like a
No,
very
blood was
humane,
everywhere.
like one of these, and you know what I mean.
It's humane, but it's humane in the fact that they cut the part of the artery or whatever part it is in the neck that it dies almost instantly.
Mhm.
So it's not going into a mincer or a machine or anything like that. So it dies, but the reason they have to let all the blood out of the animal before they can then bless it, and they bless it while they're killing it, but they let all the blood out before they cook it. That's usually why the meat is quite soft, because the animal like petrified before you kill it. You know, sometimes you get like a chicken breast and it's chewy. It's because the animal's fucking shiting itself because it's seen its three pals go up the conveyor belt, and it's like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, so it doesn't have that sort of aspect to it. But it was lovely. We had them with potatoes and carrots and a wee bit too much garlic. That's my dad's fault. But apart from that, it was all right. This podcast is sponsored by Peter. So there you go.
This podcast. Halal.
But that's what we eat traditionally. What about you guys? Did you have any weird family traditions that no one else really had?
What is the thing, like,
That you went to
like
school and-
hearty Scottish food is shite, and it's something that, like,
I don't know.
Like mince and potatoes is just a waste of
I
time,
like
man.
haggis.
No, I know, but
I love haggis.
we weren't like, we didn't have loads of money growing up. We did okay, but it's like we ate minced potatoes and stuff. But you didn't have haggis every week. You know what I mean?
No.
Nah, I didn't have haggis at all. It wasn't. But things like mince and potatoes or
That's it.
steak pie, stuff like that.
I mean, really, it's
I was raised on the Scottish diet of sugar, iron brew bars,
Yeah, iron brew bars.
cream soda.
Oh, remember them? They were like refresher bars, but made it iron brew. They were.
Aye.
Still get them?
Oh, I don't know, mate, because you would need a filling after every
I
every
bought
bite.
one recently, but it's like iron brew. It's like an Our Willy sort of themed one. It's not official.
Oh, like an old design,
Like,
like traditional
it's not,
design.
It's not iron like bars, iron brew bar. It's not. It didn't
Right.
taste the same. But nah. It's like
Aye, I
most good
don't-
food.
Like you.
I
Sorry,
was
man.
going to say,
Go.
like, most good food is like any good food ever is derived from poverty, and it's really
Yeah.
because you have to flavour something as well as you can when you don't have the resources,
Yep.
curry,
Yeah.
things like that. This is it.
Yeah.
And you need to get inventive as well,
But
man.
like, I
It's
think
the reason
Scottish
why-
food
oh, sorry.
traditionally is shit. So I'm going to stop butting in. But yeah.
No. You had the point. I was just going to chime in with the fact that that's why, like in China, my sister went to live in China for a bit in a foreign exchange, and she didn't know what any of the food was, but there was like chicken's feet and beaks and stuff. It was because they were poor, and that's what the upper class left for them after they ate all the chicken breasts and the legs and all the tasty bits. So they had to be inventive, like you said, in the cooking process and the sort of spices process to make it even edible.
Aye, and I think because in Scotland, the certain things weren't available, so it was like cows, sheep,
Yep.
potatoes, carrots.
Yep.
There's only so you can only invent so much from that shit. You know what I mean?
But like we
That's
never,
why
we
we got-
never tried herbs in this country, like herbs or spices. It was just like carrots,
Yeah, it's just salt.
Paprika.
potato,
What?
fucking stick it together, and it'll be mince of potatoes or stew, and that's your one.
Aye.
And you'll put salt. Other than salt and
You know,
pepper,
stovies.
there's nothing else. Aye, stovies. Stovies is just somebody that's.
Stovey.
Like,
Aye, it's one of those ones. If you're cold, is nice, but
Yep.
it's just been invented by someone that's had their dinner and then mixed it all in one bowl, like a 3-year-old, and then I've got we'll give that a name. We'll sell that.
Exactly. This is probably a bad time to say that my girlfriend's cooked me in an Irish stew, so it's probably going to be about that I'm going to eat now. So
Irish stew is good though. That's good. That's nice. That's a
Is
nice,
it?
thick, dense, saucy stew.
I'll give you an update after
Is an Irish stew got mushrooms in it?
I hope.
Is that the right thing
I
I'm
like-
thinking of?
I
No.
like mushrooms, but she hates mushrooms, so there's no chance she's putting in it. I think it's.
I'm a dick. I'm thinking of like a stroganoff. That's what I'm thinking of.
That's a stroganoff, mate. That's
Aye.
is stroganoff even Russian? Is it actually Russian? I remember
Is it not like Hungarian or something?
I'm gonna get a wee Google. I remember reading that I thought it was Russian, and it's not. I don't think it's Hungarian because one of my mates is Hungarian. She never eats that.
Scott, what's your how are you getting rid of the chins?
The beef. I don't know, man. I don't. I used to be fit. I used to like run marathons and that.
Seriously?
And,
You don't run marathons, eh?
aye, marathons
Very,
and
very
half
humble
marathons,
about
but there's nothing worse. Like I would do it just because I like the challenge of that kind of stuff, and I like running. Like I was never the person to come and ask for charity money.
Right.
Like, because like folk would say that, like, oh, you should do it for charity. I'm like, but I'm doing it anyway. It's like you paying somebody £10 for help save the children because they're going to play five-a-sides.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? It's this. I was just doing it because I like doing it.
Registered marathons are just running 26 minutes.
Oh no, I did the registers ones.
That's good going, man.
And a couple in Perthshire. It's cool. It's hard. Obviously, it's hard. That's a stupid thing to say, but it was a long time ago. It's a few years ago. So maybe get back to something like that. But I think eating too much rubbish and drinking a lot. Because I can exercise fine, but then like not having a beer and going, you know, I'm not going to have those 6 beers because I want to get up at 6 o'clock tomorrow and go and do a 9-mile run.
See, I went through a wee period like a few years ago where I have the mentality of once I do something, like not on the off chance, but once I do something once, I need to better it the next time that I do it. It's not really a healthy mentality to have, to be honest, but it's like, so one day I went a 5k run and I was like, I'll just do it. So I was always skinny. I used to play tennis in my youth, so I was like, I'll just go a wee 5k run. And then the next day I went 6k, and then the next day I did 8, and then I did 12, and by the end of it, my body was just destroyed. I think I got up to like 24k or something, like over the course of like a week of having like not really ran, and I was just destroyed. But if I put it in my mindset that that's what I want to do, I could probably do it. But on the other hand, I see all these folk, like you all have seen them on Facebook, sticking stuff up like just did my 10,000 steps and oh look at me, and you see the likes, they're like 700 likes, and I'm like, mate, just shut up.
Exactly. If you're doing something for you, just then keep it to you. Don't do something for you, then tell everyone you're doing it for you, because then you're not.
Exactly. A bipedal being to congratulate themselves for walking 10,000 fucking steps.
Come on, mate. Exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
Like my phone just has steps in the front of it. It's part of it's an app on the phone that's built in, and it's just like you open the phone at the end of the night, and it's just like 11,000 steps. Like
yeah, and folk are celebrating
just by accident.
Like, yeah, I know. It's actually, it boggles my mind sometimes, and there's so many folk that comment shit like, "Oh, well done you! I can never do that." I'm like, mate, come on. Yes, you can.
You can, and you probably did today.
Exactly. If you had that phone in your pocket and you recorded the amount of times you went to the shitter and back to your couch to watch Netflix, you're knocking out at least 2,000 or 3,000 steps. Like, come on. Like, it does. It really, it pisses me off. And the whole
is that low, 10,000 steps. It really is nothing.
I know. It really.
It's an okay amount, right? It's an amount that you would go, right, I've had a okay active day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you will, because I've got a Garmin watch which shows me it, and it's like in the morning just pottering about doing bits, be taking the rubbish to the bin and all that kind of stuff. You'll do like 900 or 1,000 steps without
the only thing I'll say
having left your house.
1 million blinks today. Like, well, that's probably too much, but it just sounds a lot. But it's not.
See the thing about
so we're all going to get T-shirts to celebrate James's 1 million blinks today.
Mm-hmm. I'm just not posting.
We are with you. Good for you,
1 million
babe.
blinks would really. I mean, that's I've really highballed that. That's just sitting spazzing out.
Epileptics will become
epileptic fits.
I don't know epileptic fit. Did I hit my 1 million blink? Beetlejuice was on the TV.
Heavy hydrated eyeballs. Just seeping. Your corneas are seeping, mate. Like the one thing, Scott, though, that I got I've got, what kind of Garmin watch do you have? I have one of those Forerunner watches that has like Spotify on it. Do you have one?
Yeah, I think it's It's a forerunner, aye.
Yeah, so I got one of them at the beginning of lockdown, and what I noticed was when I was going to run was alright, but throughout my daily activity, like the watch would say like 20,000 steps, and the phone would say like 14. Because like when you do it with your hand, I'm not
right.
being dirty, right? But when you do it with your hand, like cooking, it just adds so many steps on. So
Aye. A wee vigorous cook will put a good 900 on there.
aye, a wee thick stroganoff stir. Is, that's it. Poach a few eggs, and that's you.
Aye.
Apparently, stroganoff is for Russia. I just googled it. I don't know.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, apparently.
I like a stroganoff's
Do you
nice,
use
man.
the Garmin for when you're on stage?
I started at the tail end. Yeah, not.
No,
just watch.
I was using the one that almost everyone had,
Casio.
the Casio that vibrates.
Yeah.
Aye.
Shitty Casio. Like 5 or what?
No, it was a newer. My wife had got it for me. It was a Casio that had like a vibrate on it.
Yeah.
If you were doing a 10-minute set, you could put it to vibrate for 9 minutes.
Yeah.
So you knew you had a minute left.
Yeah.
I know that you'd get a flash
Your
anyway.
Casio
But
vibrates if your personality is too interesting. I've got a Casio as well. I use the Casio. It's because it's cheap. And
aye, and it's.
I remember the last gig.
I don't know what I was going to say.
The last one, it was that Manford competition thing that was on. And I forgot my watch, and it was like 5 minutes, and you've got to do whatever you're doing and then get off. And Craig Wilson, I don't know if you guys know Craig Wilson.
Yeah.
He's really good. So he had one of those watches, and I'd left mine in the car, I think it was. So he handed it to me, and he was like, just use it when you go up. And I remember looking at the crowd and looking at a few comics that went on before me, and I looked down at the watch, and I was like, fuck that. I handed them the watch back. I was like, mate, I don't give a shit how much time I'm doing up there. I was like, I don't give a shit. This night's an absolute torture. So I handed them the watch back. I was like, you'd be lucky if I do 2 minutes before I walk off there. I don't need something buzzing. But I went up, and it was alright that night. But
who did you do?
It was alright.
I wish I was a bit. I wish I was a bit more concise. I think the watch might help me, to be honest. But
Was there a few people from kind of Glasgow then? Like you, Craig.
I was there.
There was.
I was.
Who else was there? Kenny Sinclair. That guy.
Kenny Sinclair. Michael Welch was there as well.
There wasn't really many folk of note. So
there was a couple of people up for down south, I'm sure. There was one, an English woman got through. You, the English woman, and Chris Weir got through.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris Weir was in the Scotty final, wasn't he? Chris.
Aye. He's good, man.
Well.
He's really good.
He's good. I didn't realise he wasn't American until I
Either did
gave
I.
him a lift home, and he was like, no, I just locked myself in the house when I was a kid and just watched all the American sitcoms, and that's where the accent came from.
He's like an American.
He's got like a proper like California accent. Because I asked him like what part of America are you from? He's like, you won't believe this, but I'm actually born and raised in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
No, like parents aren't.
No.
That's so strange, man.
No, so shocked. But it's good. It's like his writing's phenomenal, mate. Though.
Aye. That'll be close to a year ago, Peter. Because it was the first week in March.
Who won
I
it?
remember.
I know.
Who won the competition?
It was. We just got through to the.
We get cut, didn't it? So
yeah.
that was a heat, and then there would have been
Were you?
the semi-finals and that
Do
after
you
that.
know
but-
then? Like, you wait, like.
Wait, they just sent us an email, and they were like, we're going to postpone it until whenever. Like, that was the first lockdown. They were like, we think we'll postpone it until the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then they sent
Remember the naivety,
sent
man.
us another email, and like I can't remember what it was, and it was basically like we'll redo it next year or whatever, and they haven't. So I don't know. It seemed like kind of prestigious based on the folk that had kind of been doing it the past few years, but that first week it just seemed. I don't know. I never did that. So you think you're funny thing, but I heard that's.
I did, and I wasn't.
Who?
But it's, I thought it was going to be a lot more fun.
He was a finalist. No,
What's
is that
that?
the
Mate?
one Connor Burns was a finalist on?
No, Liam Farley was a
Right,
finalist.
Yeah, Liam.
I thought it must have been something else then.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know what's
happening.
happening.
All those things, but I was busy with a gig in Rutherglen above in Iceland. So
Do you remember those ones? Oh, mate. Are you talking? That is one.
Is that the ice bar?
Those are my bread and butter, man. You
Oh,
wasting your time
what was it called, man? I remember that. I remember that.
What's that one? You're right. It's like above a wee dingy. It's like a wee old man's pub or something.
I can't remember what it's called. Harley's.
In Rutherglen. Harley's.
That's it.
Because I did.
That was Harry.
Because there was two of those Harley's gigs in Rutherglen.
Yeah.
One of them I did, and I think it was the opening night of it. And the guy that was running it was a nice guy, right? He was a genuine nice guy, but it wasn't well done. Let's just put it that way, right? It was,
if I remember right.
mate, there was walked into this place, and it's the most televisions I've ever seen in one room.
Mate, I've only
Right?
ever seen one
Big,
television.
wide open room, in every space that they could possibly get a television with a different, like one will have MTV hits on, the other one would have Sky Sports News, and then there was mirrors everywhere. It didn't turn down any of the music, and you're like, could you bring in some dancing clowns? I don't think there's any more distractions you could fit into this room.
There was Christmas lights around it in the middle of July. I remember that, and I was like, "This is not the place for me."
And then the guy again, I'm slating him, but
You
right,
remember
but
his name?
No.
It was a wee baldy guy, wasn't it? I can't remember his name.
but he was just starting out, right? He'd only done a
think
few
it-
gigs. I thought, right, I'll put my own night on, which is fine, but you need to look at other nights that are already put together and kind of copy the ones that are working.
Yeah.
He did. So he just booked, there was no headline, it was just all open spots of different experience. And then there was no MCing involved. They would go up and go, "Are you ready to have a good time?
No.
Your first act." And then that was it. And then that person would do their 5 to 7 minutes. They'd come off and go, "Give it up for James McCluskey. Is everyone having a good time?
It's the first time it was a
Please welcome Peter Roddick."
That's totally like it.
And then you'll just wait to hear what he said with the next one. "You're having a good time." And it just kept going.
Yo,
And then there was no headline.
Just be generic, it's going bad. Yo, here, still? Yo, still here?
Oh, it was horrible, man.
Oh, I remember I went and there was a wee guy and he was a therapist or something, and he was this wee midget.
Oh,
He was a wee therapist, and he was telling stories about his patients, and I was like, "Mate, I'm gonna leave." Like,
aye, we're all losing our patience listening to your pish,
you're
mate.
literally
Gaff.
putting your job on the line to talk shite about your patients like that. That's
Mate, I know who you're talking about. James knows who you're talking about. We've spoke about him on the group chat. This guy's not a therapist, right? He's done a Groupon course and called up. Mate, I've got me. See this here? This is better therapy than you get off of that.
Oh,
Club.
Jesus, I thought he was actually-
He's done like an online course to be a life coach, and then
And you get like a certificate through the post. I think it's.
Mate, he's not a life
Aye.
coach. He's take your life coach. Like, listen to him. It's game over.
see if I'm going to him for advice of how to live a balanced life. He's fucking chucked me off a cliff.
He got the qualification from the same site that you can buy land on the moon.
Oh, I felt sorry for him, and I left.
We all know his name. We know who it is. And if this episode goes out to the open spot community of Scotland, they know who it is as well. And I've got no problem if this guy wants to message me, because I could call him a fucking charlatan, because that's what he
To be
is.
honest, I don't actually know the guy's name, right?
I know his
I know
name.
his name,
I
though.
could,
Only his name, but I just remember what he looks like, and he freaked me out a wee bit. And I went back to that gig a week later, and there was no one there, and I just went home. So I don't even think
He
it's
looks
touched my-
he looks like Gollum shagged Ben Stiller. That's what he looks like.
Ben Stiller's no bad. What are you piling Ben Stiller into?
He
this
looks
for?
like
It's-
the
I would-
he looks like the centre of his own Russian doll.
Right, okay. I get that. Oh,
He's the best on. Now, a lot of people have unfriended him on social media recently because they're just like, I can't put up with it. But he's the kind of person I like to keep on because I like, if that's the insanity that's out there, as long as I'm nowhere near that,
right.
I'm doing all right.
Right,
Because he'll get some random life message and surround it with big words over enhanced ego that he has, and just make a paragraph out of something that basically says make your own decisions in life. So that's the message, right? Make your own decisions in life. He would go, sometimes when people think about their choices, decisions, actions, and consequences of those actions, they don't fully appreciate that their soul must be in these decisions, because these decisions may come back to you in 5 days' time or 10 years' time. But when it does come back to you in 10 years' time, you need to think, what choice did I make?
A whole load of nothing.
That's an example of his
I
pish.
think the point has came in the podcast to ask Scott, you okay, hun?
I'm fine.
You seem very. This is the most enthused and like emboldened you've been in the whole podcast. But I'm
I just can't take people like that, mate. I can't
I
take
just,
it.
I
It's
just
not.
don't like phony people. And oh, sorry, James, jump in. You've been quiet for a bit.
I shared the green room with him at the stand at Glasgow, and it was like Larry Dean was a headliner that night, and they were talking about like shagging and stuff, and he started, the therapist started talking about like fingering asses, and his cadence,
What?
his cadence and the way he says things. Like I said, like you know when someone swears and you feel like you should like give them a row like a child, like you shouldn't be swearing. Like, voices, you shouldn't swear. Don't swear. And he was talking about fingering asses, and I've never seen comedians uncomfortable. It was so fucking awkward, man.
I don't know. I have to say, I don't really know the guy. I mean, maybe I'm sure I've crossed paths with him like at the beginning, a couple of times. But I can honestly say I don't really know his name. You'll need to tell me his name.
I'll text you his name in a minute. You'll know who it is.
Okay.
But you'll know his name because next week he's our guest.
Yep, we're gonna have a live therapy set.
It's going to cost us all £60 an hour to have him on, and it's worth 1% of that.
And you know that bit where James, you thought about hanging yourself? Like that's going to happen a lot next week. So just prepare yourself.
Oh no, it's gonna make it worse. £60 an hour, or
to talk you into doing it.
kilometres on the moon. You can get them for as well.
Oh,
I'd do it.
aye.
I'd do it.
So are we past? Sometimes I like to think that we were getting slowly past those shitey gigs, but I was trying so hard not to do them anymore and try to do decent ones, and try to get paid work wherever I can because I'm a dirty wee comedy hole. But
Must be nice.
I get the weird feeling that when things go back, like we're gonna be straight back to that stage one, don't you?
I agree.
I'm
Yeah.
not looking forward to. I'm looking forward to getting back on stage, but I'm not looking forward to that bit. And it sounds so arrogant, the fact that I've only been doing comedy for a few years.
No, it's not an arrogance, mate. It's you work hard and you do these ones and you try and build up to slightly better gigs, and then that's just kind of been taken away.
Yeah, I know.
By no fault of anyone here.
I know.
Well, slightly James's fault.
I was bringing the group down collectively.
But how many of those gigs are going to exist? Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of those gigs were based in we pubs and restaurants and all that might not even exist anymore.
Well, that's just
Unless we come out in some kind of boom.
There wasn't a lot of nights, like Jamie Kirk's night was taken off. It was meant to be really good, and that was one
Oh,
of the
that
things
was
that I was
that was
for.
brilliant.
It was really good.
It was in
Burns
Renfrew.
House, Burns.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was meant to do that the week that lockdown happened, I think.
Right, I'm
So I think it was the week
Oh,
after that comedy gig, and then I couldn't do it, obviously. But I didn't know how good it was.
it's really
Yeah.
good, mate. Really good. It's in a pub, right? But there's a great example, right? Jamie's gone and said, right, I'll set up my own night. He did it. It was a Monday, so it wasn't conflicting with anything else. And he set it up. He thought about who was actually going to be on. He made sure there was a headliner, and he made sure that it was advertised properly, and he made sure that the room we were in was only there for the comedy. It wasn't like passers-by. There wasn't going to be football on.
Right.
So we compare that to the stupid stuff that we were talking about earlier. Like those kind of nights need to come back, because there were places where open spots were getting a chance to go and perform in front of a decent crowd that were there for a good time, and there was a headliner, so there was value for everybody. Do you know what I mean? And it was brilliant,
Set up
genuinely
by, I know
fucking
Jamie's
magic.
got a good head in his shoulders, so it was set up by, if we just talk in general, like when a gig's set up by someone that seems to have some level of common sense, then it's gonna do all right.
Aye. Oh, you just need to look at the other ones that are working, and try and replicate them in some way that you can.
Right.
Don't just go, oh, comedy. All you do is get a room, a microphone, and throw people that say they tell jokes, and then that'll work. No, you need to have some kind of headliner, some kind of structure,
Yep.
a running order, because that was another one, another shit gig that we've all done in a restaurant. There was no running order. You had no idea what was
Free food,
happening.
though.
You were like,
Yep.
like I didn't even
no.
like the food, man. Nah, the
Oh,
couple
right,
of
I know
chicken
what you're
wings.
talking about now. All right, okay.
You buy.
Yeah, well, I,
Um,
I did a few of them at the beginning. They
Aye,
loved me.
I've never. It's the only time I've ever been heckled by a sizzler of lamb going past my face. Literally just before a punchline. You know the sizzlers where it's like
I just,
the waiter took it past my face.
that happened with me as well, but I looked at it and I started getting fond memories of Sheepy and I started crying.
Oh. Funnily enough, when I think of that gig, I cry as well.